David Swanson. He is the director of worldbeyondwar.org.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I can't make it any louder. Hoping you can hear me. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for having me here. There are a number of problems with the idea that maintaining and expanding giant military bases in other people's countries protects their freedom or the freedom of people in the United States. For one thing, the United States maintains these bases in the most brutal dictatorships and the most liberal democracies. Is the United States defending the same freedoms in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia as in Germany and Italy? And what might they be? For another thing, few, if any, nations occupied by U.S. bases are actually credibly threatened with invasion and overthrow. For North Korea to effectively invade and occupy either Japan or the United States, much less both of them, even if those countries were unarmed, even if they knew nothing about nonviolent tactics that have become mainstream, boycott, strikes, sit-ins, would require the complete abandonment of North Korea by a population universally drafted into the military and somehow multiplied with rapid cloning. China has also expressed zero interest in occupying and reducing freedoms in Japan or the United States, would eliminate hundreds of millions of customers of its products were it to do so, and has responded in kind to both reduced and increased militarism from the U.S. military. In other words, occupying Okinawa does nothing whatsoever positive for freedom, but it does do something negative. The people of Okinawa are denied the freedom not to be a prime target for attack, the freedom not to have their water poisoned, the freedom to live without noise pollution and crashing airplanes and drunken vandals and rapists and massive environmental destruction. Over and over again, they tell pollsters and elect governments to shut down these bases. And over again, the bases are built in the name of spreading democracy. The people of Okinawa don't just vote. They organize and act non-violently. They risk prison and injury and death. And they pull in activists from around the world to make this a global campaign, a cause against the U.S. government, whose people imagine it protecting democracy, while polls find global opinion to be the exact opposite. And of course, during all of this military buildup and the counterproductive wars and threats of wars, the people of the United States see their own freedoms eroded in the name of the militarism that is supposedly protecting freedom. Okinawa ought to be independent and not Japanese, but Japan claims ownership of Okinawa, and the people of Japan are more accepting of the occupation of Okinawa, though many of them, too, seem to be getting tired of it, or at least tired of paying for it financially. And a lot of them are protesting in solidarity with the people of Okinawa. But the people of Japan have never been allowed to vote on the U.S. occupation of Okinawa. The people of the United States have never been allowed to vote on the occupation of Okinawa. Lay out for either of those populations the counterproductive, endangering nature of these bases, the environmental cost, the financial cost, and the risk of promoting nuclear apocalypse, and I would be willing to go with the resulting vote over the current decision makers. But what of the idea that the bases protect not freedom but safety, that there is a threat not of invasion and freedom reductions but of a deadly attack? There are two main problems with this idea, either of which is sufficient to reject it. First, the evidence is overwhelming that this sort of militarism is counterproductive, that it generates hostility rather than deterring it. Second, even if you believe in the logic of deterrence through the threat of mass murder and destruction, current technologies allow the United States to accomplish that anywhere on Earth without nearby bases. This means both that the bases in Okinawa are not needed for what they claim to be needed for, and that they're there for something else. Combine this fact with the revelations from Edward Snowden that the U.S. has sabotaged Japanese infrastructure in order to be able to extensively damage Japan. And I will leave it to the people of Japan to understand what the bases are actually there for. In reality, there is no upside to these bases that can be weighed against the poisoning of the groundwater with cancer-causing chemicals, the raping of Okinawan girls, or the destroying of coral that protects all of us from an actual danger while creating another one. Environmental collapse and nuclear catastrophe are the twin dangers that we actually face, and militarism is the top cause of one and the sole cause of the other, as well as being a pit into which unfathomable resources are dumped instead of being put to actually protective uses. Of course, U.S. military bases poison groundwater all over the United States as well, and poison U.S. troops at foreign bases. But as my friend Pat Elder has said, some people are far less accepting of being given cancer than Americans are. We cannot afford, any of us, to be accepting of increased risks of global catastrophe. There is no such thing as isolated climate destruction or isolated nuclear war. We need the people of Japan and of the world to change course and uphold Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution and renounce the idea of wars and militaries and bases. You may have heard that this government here has been shut down. It has not. Not a single war or base or ship has been shut down. Open up the non-military U.S. government and shut down all the bases, including in Okinawa. Thank you.
Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down!